Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and colleagues, it's now day 3 of this tax debate, and this bill seems to get worse by the hour. It started off as a tax hike on nearly 14 million Americans to pay for multi-trillion-dollar handouts to multinational corporations and new loopholes for tax scammers and cheats. Then the news broke that these corporate handouts are going to force billions of dollars in cuts to Medicare. And Republican leaders said that entitlements are next after the Congress works on taxes, which means further cuts to Medicare, cuts to Medicaid, and cuts to Social Security. Now let's cut to early yesterday afternoon. The Republicans apparently couldn't get through lunch without hatching another plot to go after Americans' health care. Apparently, sometime between the salad course and the entree, it was decided that permanent corporate tax cuts should be paid for in part by kicking 13 million Americans off their health care and raising premiums for millions more. And let's not kid around. This is not just another garden variety attack on the Affordable Care Act. This is repeal of that law. And one of the first things that's going to go will be airtight, loophole-free protection for the millions of Americans who now have protection when they have a pre-existing condition. So that brings us to today, when the American people are going to learn that last night there was another change, so that individuals are only getting temporary tax cuts out of the Republican bill, but the multinational corporations are getting permanent cuts. What a double standard that is. We saw it yesterday. It's gotten worse. For the multinational corporations, their handouts are set in stone, written in ink, locked in place, with the key thrown away, but not for the middle class. The Treasury Secretary even said that the administration was going to draw a line in the sand. A line in the sand? Well, we'd sure like to see it, as our colleagues have said here, to protect the middle class. What they're going to do is protect the multinationals with permanent breaks. No lines in the sand when it comes to permanently protecting middle-class families. In fact, for middle-class families, the deal looks worse and worse. It used to be a promise of a tax cut, putting real cash back into the pockets of the middle class. Now it's a roll of the dice. Families are going to have to hope they're not going to be among the millions whose taxes go up. So bottom line, my colleagues on the other side have now shown their hand. The corporate handouts are permanent. The family breaks aren't. In fact, they don't even make it a full decade. To pay for the handouts to multinational corporations, millions of Americans are going to lose their health care, millions will see their premiums skyrocket, and millions are going to get hit with a tax hike. That is what is on offer as of now. Mr. Chairman, I want to close with a request, if I might. At the 11th hour last night, the chairman released a new mark that includes repeal of a critical provision of the Affordable Care Act. To understand the impact of that provision, it would have been appropriate and customary to have the Congressional Budget Office here to answer questions. Despite a request from the minority to invite the Congressional Budget Office, apparently you have refused. As a result, during the course of this critically important issue, the committee won't have the experts here who can explain what the bill means for the health coverage for millions of Americans and premiums for millions more. It appears, on the basis of our analysis, that health care is going to be cut more than $300 billion. And we ought to have the Congressional Budget Office here to tell us what harm this would do to various Americans who would be so directly affected. So, Mr. Chairman, before we actually formally start, I would like to ask once more that you invite the Congressional Budget Office here to tell us when $300 billion is being cut in health care, who actually is being harmed. So on behalf of the minority, Mr. Chairman, I make that request at this time.